All right, folks, we're here with Judge Mark Blumstein, and he is currently the Circuit Court Judge in Miami-Dade County District.
It's the whole county.
The whole county.
Yes. In my group, is that what you're asking?
Yes, the group number, I'm sorry.
34.
Group 34.
Yes.
And so we have the election coming around the corner, and one of our...
It's here.
Well, we're here. We have early voting and vote by mail going on right now.
Yes.
The election day is going to be August 23rd.
It is.
And so we're honored to have you here as a guest on MiamiSprings.com. So if you could kind of share with us a little bit about your background and growing up and kind of what led you here to South Florida.
Absolutely. Well, first, thank you for having me on this program and for giving me an opportunity to reach your audience. So my name again is Mark Blumstein. I am born and raised in Miami-Dade County. Actually grew up in an area called Westchester back when I was growing up. Now it's often referred to as Westchester. But in any event, I grew up there. I am a first-generation American, son of Cuban-born parents. So when I speak to my Hispanic constituency, I often say que soy judío cubano, pero no jodido. So in any event, I have been serving as a judge after my election in 2016, so it's been almost 6 years. And like I mentioned, was born and raised here. I went to school, though, on Miami Beach, graduated from Miami Beach Senior High School, and then went on to college at the University of Florida for undergrad. Then I actually went to work for a few years in the private sector before returning to law school. And then, of course, I completed my law school education at Nova Southeastern University, which is here in South Florida, graduated magna cum laude in that institution. And during that time, I decided that I wanted to be a trial attorney. So for those that do want to practice in the trial arena, there are several good opportunities upon graduation. And I decided to give an effort to become a Judge Advocate General in the U.S. Armed Forces. I was blessed to be able to get a commission in the United States Navy, where I began my service as a Judge Advocate General, and continued that service both on active duty and reserves for 20 years. Retiring just at the time I was elected in 2016. So I have been a trial attorney my entire legal career, first in the military and then in the private sector. As I mentioned, I was on active duty and then reserves. So when I left active duty, essentially when children came and blessed our family, I have three children. But at the time, my firstborn was born overseas while I was in the U.S. Navy. And the second of my children was on his way. And so that was when my wife gave me orders to come back home to Miami-Dade County. So upon returning home, it was around the year 2000, I began my private practice in certain law firms here in South Florida before starting my own legal practice in 2008.
Okay.
I ran my own firm essentially from 2008 until I was recalled to active duty in the U.S. Navy in 2015. And it was during that service that I was deployed to a little tiny country in Africa called Djibouti.
Okay.
And I completed my service there. And when I returned to Miami-Dade County, I decided that I was going to run for judge. And with the help and support of the electors here in South Florida, I was elected in 2016. The experience that I brought to the bench, I think, is why I got elected. I was working as an attorney in the criminal arena, in the civil arena, on both sides of the aisle, prosecuting cases, defending cases. I also know what it's like to be a litigant, which is an important perspective to have as a judge, because we do manage cases. And we do have to administer justice, and I believe that justice delayed is justice denied. So that's, in a nutshell, Mark Blumstein's story. But I'm happy to answer your question.
Sure. So so we started with you became a Gator, and what were you studying in undergrad? What were you?
Finance,
business. So your finance and business. And was that where you wanted your career to go, or was there always that inkling to go into law?
So I'm not going to say that I always aspired to be a lawyer. I certainly wanted to enter the world of business, which is why I studied it. And when I graduated from undergrad, it was 1991. There really wasn't a lot of opportunity in the area of my study. I saw myself going into banking and finance. At the time, it was a challenge. So I took a different course with the degree that I had. And it actually served me well because I got to manage people, which was more of a management role.
Sure.
And so I did that for a year. And it was after that that I was given the opportunity to go into the banking world, which is what I did end up doing for a financial institution that basically no longer exists, but it was swallowed up by other organizations, as the banking industry seems to do.
Right.
And it was then that I decided that it was the right time to go pursue the study of law, because I saw it applicable in almost every aspect of society. We are a nation of laws, and it's important to understand the law and its application, because there is no equivalent to the system of justice that this country offers and that we need to preserve. And so I saw it appropriate to pursue that study with the encouragement of my family, of course, and I did that, and I excelled in it, and I'm happy I did it because I do make a difference in people's lives now as a judge, but even before as a practicing attorney.
So then, so you get your undergraduate, you had some career work, and then you went to law school at Nova Southeastern. You become an attorney, and then talk to me between becoming an attorney and then joining the Navy, and how did that go together?
So I'm essentially a product of a family that was very much a believer in defending the freedoms of this country. I told you I was a first generation American. My parents emigrated here from Cuba. And my father, when he came here, it was during World War II, essentially enlisted immediately into the U.S. Army.
Wow.
He was a paratrooper in the U.S. Army during World War II. And, that was something that was always what I aspired to do in one form or another. Actually, tried to go into the armed forces after high school.
Right.
I had this dream of flying jets for the U.S. Navy.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, I had glasses, and he said that disqualifies you. Now, of course, it doesn't matter, but back then it did. So that didn't work out.
I feel your pain.
Yes, I see you have glasses. But in any event, so the next opportunity really came during law school when I looked into the different areas of trial practice. And some folks tend to go into like the state attorney's office or the public defender's office or U.S. attorney's office or federal public defender. And many people don't understand that the military offers a similar track that really applies the same principles of law and applications of procedure, but in a federal military context. So it's really the best of both worlds for me because I wanted to serve the country and also practice as a trial advocate.
It's just on my part, sheer ignorance, if you don't mind me asking the question. So at this point, obviously you're an officer of the court, you're an attorney, and you apply to join the Navy. I know that officers go through kind of a different, let's say when they join, a little kind of different treatment than, let's say, someone who just enlists and it doesn't happen.
Yes.
So, but like, do you go through basic training and that sort of thing, or so you still go through the basic training like everybody else?
A little different than enlisted training.
Right.
They have different schools for that. So
okay.
For officers like myself who come in as an officer,
right.
You would go through like an officer candidate school or officer indoctrination school.
Right.
So you're grouped with other officers, but you still have those basic training components, calisthenics, waking up early, standing watch, doing all those things that are expected of officers responsible for enlisted folks.
Hey, excellent. Well, it's great to know, and I appreciate you. Look, I didn't know. so it's definitely helpful. All right, so then you serve with the Navy, and then I'm assuming, once you kind of get through that, let's say, basic training, then they kind of give you certain roles, and then I guess every kind of watches JAG and those kind of shows and that sort of thing. But tell me kind of like the reality in a short bit, if you don't mind.
Yeah, the day-to-day, basically. So you get assigned to a role as a judge advocate. It could range in the different responsibilities. I personally knew I wanted to be a trial attorney. So that means you could be a prosecutor or a defense attorney, essentially, practicing criminal law. So I was essentially the equivalent of a federal prosecutor, but in the military context,
Right.
dealing with the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which is our substantive law, and related procedures. So I would prosecute crimes just as a federal prosecutor would prosecute federal crimes. They just involve military members, and we have both bench trials as well as jury trials in the military. And so that's what I did as my first duty assignment. And then I was tapped to go overseas after that. That's when I was sent over to Europe doing the same role. And then I transitioned into a different role, serving internationally on behalf of the U.S. Navy for those members that found themselves involved in foreign courts.
Okay.
I was charged with overseeing them.
So you gave them legal assistance in those foreign countries to members of the military or members of the federal government, I guess, maybe?
Could be at
Okay.
times, but we focused on military members that found themselves involved in the process over there.
Got it. Okay.
And then eventually transitioned to the defense side of the aisle in the same context, defending military members who were charged with certain crimes. And I did that for a period of time as well. And then they transitioned you into different roles and responsibilities, what we call legal assistance, or we provide legal advice to military members that may be facing a divorce or a child custody issue, things of that nature, or need a will prepared. They have to litigate some issues surrounding probate matters.
Okay.
We would get involved as well on behalf of those members and local courts wherever we were stationed. Then I told you children came.
Yeah.
And we returned home back to South Florida. So when I came back home, I took up a job. I stayed in the reserves, but
Okay.
I took up a job in the private sector, working at different law firms, practicing different areas of law, including admiralty, insurance litigation, commercial litigation. And I did that basically for I think it was like 6 to 8 years in different law firms, but really only 2 different law firms.
Okay.
Before I went on my own.
And that was all still here in South Florida?
I was here in South Florida.
Okay.
Correct.
And what, mostly in Miami-Dade? Would that be accurate?
Both Miami-Dade and Broward.
And Broward? Okay.
Yes, and then sometimes cases would take you to different parts of Florida as well.
Got it. All right.
Beach County or beyond.
Now, you said you stayed with the reserves, and then you had indicated that they called you back.
Yes.
So, like I get,
How it happened? You want to know?
yeah. Like I get, okay, hey, we're having, we're going to war, and we need, soldiers to go to war. But I'm again, forgive my ignorance. So just explain to me how they pull you back.
So, as a member of the armed forces, it's always, the needs of the Navy come first,
right,
before your personal matters. So, like infantry, there are a limited number of JAGs in the different armed services.
Right.
So there's not an endless supply of us, and at times, when you sign up for active duty in the reserves, you sign up for the possibility of being recalled when the needs of the Navy require it. So that happened to me. It's happened to colleagues of mine as well.
Right.
And it just so happened that it occurred with me when I had my own practice and I was managing cases.
Oh, wow.
So you essentially have to shut all that down.
Yeah.
Transfer cases to other people so they can handle it or continue it or complete it. And then in my case, I was tasked with going to this foreign country called Djibouti, unaccompanied. So I can't take my family. I can't take.
Wow. Yeah.
It's a sacrifice, but it's a bigger cause than me. So, I'm all about being selfless. It's part of my character. For those that really know me, they understand that. I know we are kind of just meeting now, and you're learning about Mark Blumstein for perhaps the first time, but that's been my life. In one way or another, I'm always serving. I now happen to be serving as your judge, but before that, I served as a volunteer, if you will, for the Miami-Dade County Military Affairs Board, that we were charged with helping veterans in our community and doing things for veterans, like the Veterans Treatment Court that we have now in our court system. I was also involved in transportation issues affecting the county through my involvement with the Citizens Transportation Advisory Committee. I was also elected to public office in my town of Surfside, where I reside. So I've always been in public life in one way or another. That's part of who I am, and that, for those that know me from childhood, they know that's my life.
Right. Well, so you come back from the reserves. Did you go back to private practice, or did you join a practice, or
No.
your own, or did you join an existing firm? How did that work?
After the last,
Yeah, when you got that second the trip to Djibouti, and how long were you in Djibouti for that matter?
for approximately 8-9 months
Okay.
of 2015. So
Yeah.
it was during that time, basically when I had time, besides work and besides everything that I was responsible for, I had time to reflect on the next chapter of my life. And it was during that time, in isolation, if you will, that I thought it would be best for me to try and take my career to the next level.
Okay.
And try to seek a judgeship, because as a practicing attorney at that time, I was probably 20-plus-year attorney. I had, like I told you, represented all kinds of clients. I practiced in all kinds of courts, and I have a sense of how the administration of justice should be delivered. And some people do it well, and others don't. And so I thought, if I was blessed with that opportunity, that I would be able to make a difference in people's lives, more so than I could as an attorney. Not that attorneys don't make differences, but it's limited. And I think judges have a more awesome responsibility to administer justice and make sure it's delivered efficiently, timely. And judges need to make decisions. We are human, so we're not always correct. Oftentimes, our decisions are reviewed, and at times, those decisions are reversed or challenged. And so, I, like I said, am human, but I can tell you that as a judge, I am prepared. I read. I don't take a lot of nonsense, and because of my experience, I know how to move cases. And I think my record would speak to that.
Okay.
For those who have studied that record, they would understand.
And as you become judge, tell me a little bit about some of the highlights, or what you're most proud of as being judge here in Miami-Dade County.
Well, first and foremost, I'm honored to be given even the opportunity to serve in this capacity, because it's not everyone that can do this, and I'm very humbled by the opportunity to serve as a judge. But I am so appreciative of the ability to affect people's lives in a positive way. But at the same time, my charge is to apply and enforce the law. Judges also have awesome discretion. So at times, a judge may be called upon to exercise discretion. As an example, if you're in a criminal court, a judge stands between the state and an accused.
Right.
And a judge has to evaluate evidence in the case to determine whether this evidence would substantiate the charge and ultimate conviction against someone. Sometimes juries are unable to make such a conclusion, and then it may fall back upon the judge to exercise that discretion, because they do have that discretion. I would have that discretion. And the other aspect of being a judge is, and it's a difficult one in the criminal context, is how to apply an appropriate sentence for someone who has been convicted of a crime and who has affected the lives of many victims, as an example. So this is not something that I take lightly, but at the same time, I listen to what the facts are of the case. I listen to the history of this particular defendant, whether this is a first time or a multiple time offense involving this person, and if there are any underlying issues that gave rise to this crime happening. Sometimes I get defendants who don't commit very egregious crimes, but they're often before the court because they have a drug problem, or they have a PTSD problem, mental health issue. All these things a judge is called upon to be able to consider in rendering an appropriate judgment and sentence. And I am one who listen, read, and be fair in the application of justice, because you never know who is going to be for you one day.
I guess as you've gone through this, and I understand that in your role you can get both civil and criminal cases. We talked about some of the, I guess, criminal cases that come before you. Have you also been handling some civil cases that come before you as a judge? Can you talk a little bit about that?
Sure, and so it's important that your listeners understand that I'm a circuit court judge.
Right.
And there's a circuit court judge, and you may have heard the term the county court judge. There are differences, but let me speak to circuit court judge, which is my present position. The circuit court has multiple divisions. I serve now in the civil division. I did serve before in the criminal division. There's other divisions of the circuit court in which I've served as well. And that's the juvenile or dependency division. And there's a probate division, and then there's a family division.
Right.
Okay. I've served in 3 of those 5 different divisions in my first term of office.
Uh-huh.
You don't get to pick necessarily your assignment when you're a junior judge,
Right.
myself. But at the end of the day, just like the Navy, I'm here to serve. And if they need me to serve in one division or a different one, that's what I'm going to do.
Right.
So in civil, let me address your question. In civil, we basically manage claims that someone may bring against another person or a business corporation in the form of a demand or a complaint. And the claims can be many. They typically involve money. At present, it needs to exceed $30,000 to come before me. Next year, it's going to change. It'll need to exceed $50,000, and it'll go like that over time.
Yeah.
And it could be up to whatever amount in controversy, but it needs to meet that minimum. We also deal with perhaps property claims. If a homeowner has suffered damage to their home and they need to file a claim against their insurance company and they have a dispute with their insurance company over that claim, I'll hear those cases. And
Okay.
I have many of them.
Yeah, I can imagine.
If you're in an auto accident
Right.
and there's someone who's injured and those damages exceed those
No threshold.
figures,
Yeah.
they'll come before me as well to resolve.
Wow.
Those are the types of cases: trips and falls, business disputes between corporations, etc. All of that would come before me. If you want, perhaps municipalities that are disputing over all kinds of issues,
Right.
either county, city, state. It runs the gamut. I would hear those cases.
Let me, if you don't mind me,
Sure.
and I know each of these we can kind of go into all sorts of rabbit holes.
Deep dive.
But
Yeah.
I gotta ask, and you brought up insurance. How do you get that fine line, South Florida, and we kind of know the reality of South Florida? You have people who have legitimate issues with their insurance because the insurance doesn't want to pay, and they have legit problems, right? And they need to get it taken care of. And you have someone who's really suffering, and they're out of pocket and trying to get things solved in their house, and then swing the pendulum the other way. We have fraudsters in Miami, that's well known, and people trying to scam the system. How do you balance that and find the as much as we can the truth and trying to get that balance, knowing you got one hand people who really suffer, insurances company pretty much never wants to pay, to the fraudsters who trying to milk the insurance company and then make it more expensive for everybody else. So walk me through that. As I know we don't have too much time, but if you can touch on that a little bit.
So let me address it like this. I treat every case on its own merits. I don't come in with any preconceived beliefs that this is a fraud claim or this is legit. The facts are going to determine what the kind of case it is. I will say this: most of the cases resolve amicably, meaning the parties resolve them through settlement. Very few of the cases actually go to trial. They do go to trial, it's because there's some fact that's in dispute between those parties.
Got it.
That said, I'm confident that not every claim may be as valid to the extent of the claim. There's typically some middle ground in there where someone makes a claim and let's just throw out a random number.
Sure.
For $100,000 in damage, but the reality is it may be $50,000 in damage. So there's a dispute as to the monetary value of the damage, things like that. But every case has to be evaluated on merit. So I often tell jurors that come in to decide these cases, I want to make sure that they understand that this is a case involving an insurance dispute, and there's a homeowner that claims that they've suffered damage, and there's an insurance company that denies that claim or a part of it. And in this courtroom, the way it works is whoever is alleging something has to prove it, and whoever is defending something basically just has to defend it.
Yeah.
And that's our system of justice, because people make allegations all day long, but unless you can prove it with evidence, it will never give you a result that you're going to be happy with. So we have to take each case on its own. We have to evaluate the facts of the case. We have to keep an open mind as a jury as to whether, the facts are going to support the claim or not. And with that open mind and listening to the evidence, seeing the evidence, looking at pictures, hearing from the witnesses, we'll be able to reach a conclusion as to if this happened the way it happened or it didn't, and it was a different cause that gave rise to the damage. But suffice it to say, everyone will get a fair opportunity to be heard in my courtroom. I tried many cases. Just before I started the election cycle, I had my last case that was tried in less than a week. And I think I've tried, as of the end of July, about 34 cases this year. And I've resolved many more than those through settlement or otherwise. So your audience understands, you're looking at a judge who has been on the civil bench for 2 years, was handed the biggest caseload of 2,800 cases to handle. And I was able to resolve 1,200 of those cases and then some, because we get 100 new ones every month, more or less.
Wow.
So I've reduced my 2,800 count to 1,600 cases. And that happens because of hard work, because of narrowing issues, by making decisions that allow the litigants to either settle or go to trial.
Got it. Well, Judge, we're coming a little bit to the end of our time, but I want to give viewers an opportunity to learn a little bit more about you. Where should they want to learn more about you before they go out and vote? Where should they go to? They want to reach you or learn more about you? Tell us a little bit more where they can find out more about you.
Sure. Well, I have a website, of course, like probably every candidate out there. It's my last name, Blumsteinforjudge.com, FOR, so Blumsteinforjudge.com. And you can also probably find me on Facebook if you use that, Mark Blumstein for Circuit Court Judge. I'm told I probably have an Instagram too, but candidly, I don't use all of this
Sure.
all the time. But through searches, internet searches, you can find all these different places to learn more about me. I do post on my website interviews that I've held with other organizations that have given me an opportunity to express myself through their process. And I ask the audience to please learn about your judges before you vote, or just don't vote, because many judges get overlooked because folks don't know much about judges. If you're not an attorney or you don't interact with a judge, it's understandable. But we touch more people than probably other folks that you elect to office in the court, either as a juror or as a litigant. You're likely to touch a judge more than you'll interact with any of your legislators. And so I think it's very important that the voters, and there's 1.5 million of them in Miami-Dade County, and I think as of yesterday, we're very low in the votes that have been cast so far. It's projected that we're not even going to reach 20% as of now,
Wow.
which is sad. But at the end of the day, what I always tell everyone is, if you don't vote, you can't complain about the result. So please, I invite your listeners to exercise the right to vote, including your judges. I am one of 7 different groups of judges that are on the ballot right now. So if you vote by mail, you already have your ballot. You've probably looked at it, and you'll see my name, Mark Blumstein. I'm number 94 on the ballot. So you'll find me in one group, and then there's 6 other groups of judges. Each one of those groups, you can pick one or the other. And so it's important to do that, I think, because I'm all about protecting this republic and our system of justice. If our system of justice breaks down, it's really a breakdown of the republic, and we need our judges to really apply the law. I don't make law. I always tell my jury, I don't make laws here. And if you're not happy with a law, I'm not the person you need to speak to. It's your legislator who you need to speak to about changing the law. So you'll have a judge in me who applies the law, who listens, who is prepared, and is ready to continue serving Miami-Dade County as your circuit court judge, as long as the voters reelect me.
Judge Blumstein, it's been an honor to have you here today, and we're really grateful for you joining us here on MiamiSprings.com. Again, election day is August 23rd.
Yes.
Early voting is happening right
I
now.
have these cards that I hand out. One in English and Spanish, they're reversible. So, and the number is 94, and you can see more about me and my military service, and one other little mention for my mom. So my number is 94. My mother's going to turn 94. God bless her. So
Wow.
she told me her present's going to be my reelection with her number 94 that she's going to turn very soon. So that's how you can correlate the number to Blumstein. So thank you for that.
Thank you, Judge Blumstein, and congratulations on your mom, and happy birthday to your mom coming soon.
Yes.
And thank you again for your service, and we wish you the best of luck.
Thank you for having me. Good day.
Thank you.